What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my fantasy football starts and sits for NFL Week 13.
Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over every position and give you my 2019 fantasy football starts and sits for NFL Week 13. This should help you decide who you want to start in your season-long fantasy football leagues. And we will show you how to use the Draft Dashboard tools to make better fantasy football picks. You can find waiver wire targets, get player point projections, find the best positional matchups to see who is projected to score the most fantasy points this week. These tools will help you decide what players to start in your fantasy football lineups. We have it all right here, so let's get into it. Okay, NFL Week 13 starts and sits. We're taking a look at the quarterback position. I'm going to start Sam Darnold from the New York Jets playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Sam Darnold has averaged 17.1 fantasy points per game on the season, but take a look at his last 3 games. 22, 26, and 28 fantasy points last game. He's projected at 17.4 fantasy points here in Week 13. Vegas thinks there's going to be 41 points scored in this game, and they have the Jets favored by 3.5. This is a great matchup for Sam Darnold, who's been on fire. I think he has another fantastic week. So I'm starting Sam Darnold here versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, who are we going to sit at the quarterback position? I'm going to sit Philip Rivers from the LA Chargers playing the Denver Broncos, who have a really good defense overall, and they give up the 5th fewest fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Philip Rivers has averaged 15.7 fantasy points per game on the season. He's only scored 12, 13, and 16 fantasy points in his last 3 games. Projected at 17.7 fantasy points here in Week 13. Vegas thinks there's going to be 38.5 points scored in this game, and they have the Chargers favored by 2.5. This is a road game for Philip Rivers. I think he struggles here, so I'm going to sit Philip Rivers here versus the Denver Broncos.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $100 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
and then we'll send you $100 PayPal.
So it's that easy.
And we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video.
So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Sit 'em, start 'em. We're looking at the running back position. If you're looking for a running back that might be on the waiver wire, take a look at Jonathan Williams from the Indianapolis Colts playing the Tennessee Titans, who have the 14th worst defense overall, and they give up the 15th most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Jonathan Williams scored 20 fantasy points last game off of 26 rush attempts and 3 pass targets. He looked really good out there. I think he gets a ton more work this week. He's only projected at 8.4 fantasy points here in Week 13, but that's not taking into account his recent uptick in rush attempts, so I think he's a nice play if you're struggling at the running back position. Around this time of year, it's tough to find running back depth, so I think Jonathan Williams can be that guy. Vegas thinks there's going to be 43 points scored in this game, and they have the Indianapolis Colts favored by 3. This is a home game and a pretty good matchup, so I'm going to start Jonathan Williams here versus the Tennessee Titans. Okay, who are we going to sit at the running back position this week? I'm going to sit Kalen Ballage from the Miami Dolphins playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, but they give up the 9th fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. Kalen Ballage has averaged 4.1 fantasy points per game on the season, only getting 6.5 rush attempts per game and 2.1 pass targets per game. He only scored 3 fantasy points last week off of 7 rush attempts and 1 pass target. It's just not enough volume to trust this guy on a week-to-week basis. He's projected at 9.1 fantasy points here in week 13. Vegas thinks there's going to be 45 points scored in this game, and they have the Miami Dolphins trailing by 9. So that's a problem for the Miami Dolphins running backs. They get game scripted out of the game. They're always passing, trying to catch up. Although it's a home game, I'm going to sit Kalen Ballage here versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay guys, if you're getting any value from this video, please hit that red subscribe button. We put out new fantasy football videos every day. So if you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell notification, you won't miss out on any of our new fantasy football videos. Tons of free stuff coming your way. It only takes a second, and it helps us push out more fantasy football content for you guys to consume each and every day. It's because of you subscribers that make this possible. So thank you for supporting this channel. Okay, NFL Week 13, sits and starts. We're taking a look at the wide receiver position. I'm going to start Devontae Parker from the Miami Dolphins playing the Philadelphia Eagles, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, and they give up the 4th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Devontae Parker has averaged 10.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 7.6 pass targets per game. He's got 10, and 11 pass targets in his last 3 games. He scored 12 fantasy points last game, on the field for 88% of the snaps, projected at 11.2 fantasy points here in week 13. We know Vegas thinks there's going to be 45 points scored in this game. They have the Dolphins trailing by 9. This is the guy you want to play from the Dolphins. He gets a ton of pass targets every game, tons of opportunity. This is a home game and a great matchup. So I'm going to start Devontae Parker here versus the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, who are we going to sit at the wide receiver position here in week 13? I'm going to sit Mike Williams from the LA Chargers playing the Denver Broncos, who have the 6th best defense overall, and they give up the 7th fewest fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. Mike Williams has averaged 8.3 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.2 pass targets per game. His numbers haven't been terrible, but he's in a bad matchup this week, and Vegas only thinks there's going to be 38.5 points scored in this game, so a somewhat low-scoring game with the Chargers favored by 2.5. I don't like the matchup. There's some games that he doesn't get very many pass targets, so he's somewhat risky in that department, not a ton of volume. So if you've got a better wide receiver, go ahead and sit Mike Williams here versus the Denver Broncos.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video.
Okay, NFL Week 13, sit 'em, start 'em. We're taking a look at the tight end position. I'm going to start Ryan Griffin from the New York Jets playing the Cincinnati Bengals, who have the 5th worst defense overall, and they give up the 13th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Ryan Griffin has averaged 6.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3 pass targets per game, but he's heating up. He scored 9 and 19 fantasy points the last 2 games, on the field for 88% of the snaps, projected at 7.1 fantasy points here in week 13. Vegas thinks there's going to be 41 points scored in this game. and they have the Jets favored by 3.5. So if you're struggling to find a tight end, go ahead and give Ryan Griffin a shot. I think he can make value this week, so I'm going to start Ryan Griffin here versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Okay, who are we going to sit in NFL Week 13 at the tight end position? I'm going to sit Tyler Eifert from the Cincinnati Bengals playing the New York Jets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall, but they give up the third fewest fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Tyler Eifert has only averaged 4.6 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 3.8 pass targets per game. He only scored 1 fantasy point off of 1 pass target last game, only on the field for 43% of the snaps, projected at 5.1 fantasy points here in Week 13. Vegas thinks there's going to be 41 points scored in this game, and they have the Bengals trailing by 3.5. Although this is a home game, I don't like the matchup. I don't like the volume that he's getting, so I'm going to sit Tyler Eifert here versus the New York Jets. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck. Do you want more fantasy football picks? Check out the video linked right in the middle of the screen. If you got any value from this video, please tap that subscribe button before you get out of here and ring that bell notification so you won't miss our daily fantasy football uploads. We're putting out new videos every day, so I don't want you guys to miss any of our free content.